So I decided this year I'm not going to plant so many tomatoes. So I'm cutting out about a third of the tomatoes that I normally plant. Except I got a few more beds I'm going to put in. I'll show you what I'm going to do here. But yesterday I got some radishes on the left over here. And then I put some spinach over here. I'm a little late getting these things out here, so I'll be curious how they work out. But anyways, we got that going. In this 4x8 bed, I did 2 rows of carrots. Down the middle, I got turnips, and then parsnips over here. Now, same thing, turnips are a little late getting out here, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, but parsnips and carrots are kind of the same. So we'll see how they worked out. My carrots worked really well over the winter time, so that might be the ultimate time to kind of plant those, but I'm going to try some spring, see how that works out. So that's all in and all fertilized, and we've got rain off and on for the next several days, so this is going to be a great start for seed starting. Now I got to come up with a better way of seeding, because I'm telling you, these carrots, they are like fly specks. Parsnips are a little bigger, turnips aren't much bigger, but I think I'll show you side by side these seeds. But I've seen some seed dispensers. I may have to try to invest in one of those, because trying to do this by hand, forget about it. It's very difficult. So I've been thinking about this area over here. There were several things I wanted to get done before I started planting in this area, but I had to get a propane tank buried, and I got to thinking, I think I'm going to go ahead and put raised beds in here, because it's very difficult to try to bring clay to life as a soil, and at least for what I'm trying to do. So I think I'm going to go ahead and build raised beds in here as well. This will be a pretty large area, so I'll do maybe some 6-foot beds here, and then I can graduate up to 8-foot beds as I walk around this area. So I think that's going to be next on my list. I do have some fruit trees I got to plant. And then the other thing is, as we walk over here to this side, I've got this hill that I had intended on terracing. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and plant some cantaloupes and watermelons on this hill for this year, because I just can't envision that I'm going to come in here and build my steps and terracing and everything in time. So I might just go ahead and make this good use. So what I got to do is I'm going to come in here and kind of rototill some areas straight across best I can, and put some cow manure in there, and just try to get something started. Now I am going to have to put up like some temporary fencing to try to keep the chickens out of here. And along the fence last year we planted a whole bunch of blackberries, and I'm going to pause this because this is really sketchy walk here. I got to do something about this year too. Now what I did is I planted, or I put up a fence. I think this thing's maybe 250 feet long all the way around the property, and on this south side of the fence we planted blackberries, and most all the blackberries look like they survived. I got a couple of them didn't make it, but I'm seeing life on the majority of these things. So these will grow up, and I'll train them to grow along the fence, and it's a perfect application. I'm still trying to walk down this thing without breaking my neck. So these are all the blackberries. It looks like only 2 of them didn't make it on this side of the gate. I should probably be on the other side. And then I got some raspberries and stuff farther down. They're actually looking like they're doing really well. So I need to come out here and get some mulch on these guys and get them going. And then I got to just start taming this whole backyard. I was thinking the other day, I got to come over here and just throw these rounds over the fence. And then what I'm going to do is start building up a flat area on this bottom level. And I'm going to take all the rabbit poo and Timothy hay, and I'm going to bring it over here and make a raised bed out of it. And I'm going to keep turning it and get some worms working on it, and make compost, and then I can use it for making a bunch of raised beds all in this area. But this hill right here, I got a feeling this would be perfect for putting in, watermelons and cantaloupe, and even I don't know exactly when you got to plant some of the squash plants like pumpkins and things like that, but I think a hill like this would be perfect. You want to plant something you don't have to tend to too much when it's on a hill. But eventually I have some steps over there by the house, and we'll be able to walk up and down this and kind of have some, I don't know if I'm going to make swales or just some retaining wall blocks to simulate swales, but that's what we're going to end up doing. We'll see. It's a lot of work, a lot of work. Yeah, I want to talk for a minute. So my channel is for people that have decided to move out into more rural areas and try to set up a homestead. I don't think anybody can really help you if you're living in a city. There's other channels for that, but I think you have to make a decision, and you have to be able to decide that you're going to be more self-sufficient, and you're just not going to be able to do that in a city. And I just think there's huge risks being in a city when all of a sudden things start having issues with food supplies and things. I've also decided in my rural area to try to make a balance of beauty and being practical as well. So, I lined my whole driveway with, azaleas, and I live in a really nice neighborhood. And, to be able to do some of these things, you have to make sure you're not part of an HOA. And, some of the neighbors are probably wondering what the heck I'm doing over here, but it's almost don't care. I'm going to do what I think is right, and not having an HOA gives me the freedom to do that. But like I said, there's a balance. You want to make sure everything looks good, and you almost need to prioritize what you're doing as well. The food, water, shelter, all those things are, key priorities, but your health is also really important. I'm going to do a video pretty soon about health in general and doctors, how they operate, because it's not always in your best interest. And I'm not a doctor, but again, you have more data than doctors do about your body, and you need to make sure that that is presented appropriately to them so that they can be guided. I've actually determined my own treatment, working with the doctors, and I'm going to share with you how that works, because they go to school and they don't always keep up with what's happening, the changes in treatments for particular things, and I was able to guide them in my own treatment, and I ended up curing myself of something most people have their whole life. So, and it's not necessarily holistic, but it's just making sure you have the latest available data. But anyways, back to, you have to kind of set goals. So I never stop. I got like big areas set up. Now I'm trying to set up smaller areas, and I'm now trying to develop my backyard gardening. And I realize I'm generating a ton of rabbit poo, and I got to start getting that to where that can be used. And so it's a never-ending, continuous improvement is what we learned when I was an engineer working in manufacturing and stuff. So you have to start thinking the same way. The other thing I want to talk to some of the younger folks, and I don't know, the demographics of my audience here at all, but I've noticed there's a big change in the younger generation. When I grew up, I decided to go to technical school instead of college. And I actually left the house at 19 while I was still going to technical school. I was working full time, so I'd go to school in the morning till about 2 o'clock, and then I worked till midnight. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I got my first full job after that, and I moved 1,000 miles away. So I was, I think I just turned 20. And then I got my first house at 24 years old. Got married at 26. I retired at 57, and now I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's just today it seems like kids live with their parents forever, and it just doesn't make sense. You've got to get out on your own. It teaches you a lot about life to learn how to survive on your own. It's a huge mistake, parents yourself, keeping your kids at home. We need to be just like birds, right? They raise them up and then not necessarily kick them out of the nest, but they're expected to get out of the nest. They don't tend the nest forever. We're supposed to, as parents, be training our kids to be self-sufficient. And we're doing them a big disservice when we allow them to stay home, even into their 40s or whatever. It's kind of amazing what I'm seeing these days. Now, that kind of goes a little bit against what I said earlier, that something is coming, and it's going to be coming fairly quickly, and we're going to have multiple generations together. But it's not where the kids are going to be sitting there playing Nintendo. They're all going to have chores. This is, excuse me, not going to be a democracy. It's about survival. And so we're going to have to start training our kids to learn how to do growing, processing, everything that used to be done generations ago. We're so far separated from our foods that people don't know, how to do any of this. And my channel is to try to teach you. And I don't claim to be an expert, but I do an awful lot of research before I start, and then I make corrections and I improve. And like I said, I'm probably going to be 2 years into this this year, and it's a huge difference when you just focus and say, this is what I'm going to do. I want you to also think about the monetary system. We're going to go through a reset, and just like in the 70s, I remember things got so tough, my mom had to start working, where previously my dad's income alone was adequate. So we already have both family members working, typically in both houses, and so now what are you going to do? You can't have anybody else working. You already have both mom and dad working. So the idea is things are going to get a lot more expensive. You need to pull money forward to become more self-sufficient, because then it's not going to be as much an issue for you. Major expenses for your house, I would not put it off now. Like if you need a roof, if you need windows, if you need appliances, whatever, all this needs to be done now, because everything's manufactured offshore, and things that are manufactured offshore are going to cost a lot more than things that are manufactured inshore. But even things that are manufactured inshore, all the parts and everything are manufactured offshore, so it's still going to make it more expensive. But you're going to have to think about this. This is going to be something that's going to be shocking. We've had 40 years of fairly constant prices. You'll see oil, move up and down a little bit, but you haven't necessarily seen the everything else grow. I would argue there's been some inflation where you look at your food packaging where it's shrunk, and that's a form of inflation that they've hidden from you. I remember growing up, there were 16-ounce cans, and I showed in a video the other day, the doggone stupid chili was even 15 ounces, and I noticed a lot of the bean cans and stuff are 14 and a half ounces. That's all signs of inflation that they're hiding from you. They just changed the packages. So anyways, this is going to accelerate at a faster and faster pace, and the pieces of paper you're holding in your wallet and that digital money that you have in your bank accounts, it's going to become less and less valuable. And we're going to talk about precious metals as a hedge against this, and it's actually a form of insurance. And and I've done a couple of videos. If you go look at this, what happened in Venezuela, if you have gold jewelry, it can't be this cheap stuff. It needs to be decent stuff. It'll save your life. It'll save your dignity. If you have gold or silver coins, same thing. It'll save your life and your dignity. So, anyways, that's it for today for this topic. It's processing time, so I got to get out there and get working. I hope everybody's treating you well. I hope you're doing well, and God bless.